Welcome to Her Fantasy Football, where the three of us sisters go matchup by matchup to help you set your lineup. Check us out at herfantasyfootball.com and on Twitter at herfantasyfb. You can also check us out on ESPNW and on Facebook /herfantasyfootball. I'm your host, Courtney Kirby.
And I'm Ashley Williams.
And I'm Brandon Lee.
Woohoo! Week 12, people. Get them out of your lineups. Only 2 teams on bye. This is it, guys. Carolina Panthers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bye-bye, Antonio Brown.
And Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah. He had a great game, and I was like, I'm not going to talk about it because they go on the bye. But
I know. Sad.
And Kelvin Benjamin, you saw that great catch, right? There's
Yep.
one shining light.
He always, I mean, when he's the only person to throw to, he's going to make something happen. It's great.
Holy moly.
the poor kicker missed the field goal at the end. Well, not quite the end, but they thought it was the end. It's like my second missed kick. It's like,
It was a pretty good game, though. It was pretty good. Some moves today, some injuries, some suspension news. It's all very exciting. We're going to cover all of it in our write-ups with each team. Let's just get right into it, ladies. Thursday Night Football. Division game, Kansas City Chiefs 7-3 at the Oakland Raiders 0-10.
But they're not that bad.
They're the best
yeah.
team. They
They
are.
really
They really
are.
are. I don't think this is going to be the game for them that they're going to get their first victory, but
No.
still, like, it's, you know, they're not that bad of a team. But fantasy-wise,
Fantasy.
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Chiefs. Let's start on a positive note here, people.
Was
One
anyone else
winner,
surprised how well
at
they
least.
played against the Seahawks, though? It makes me a little
No.
nervous as a Broncos fan, right? Because we certainly didn't play well against the Rams, and they were looking good.
And we're looking good.
At least Jamal Charles was looking good, who is obviously in my play if you got him, because he's Jamal Charles.
Winning.
Yeah, I mean, this is a given at this point. He was the 3rd highest scoring running back last week. He's the 6th highest scoring running back overall. And he scored you a much-needed 26 points off 159 yards and 2 touchdowns and off 20 touches. So this was the most yards he had all season, which, again, is surprising against the Seahawks. But expect another big week from him as he'll be up against the Raiders, like we just said, who give up the 5th most points to running backs. So Charles should have a nice little field day with that. Gut calls, I have nobody. It's kind of, either you're playing him or you're not when it comes to the Chiefs. Now, I bench, we talk a little about Travis Kelce, because everybody else on the bench, but we're going to highlight Kelce here for a second, because
Please.
it is sad but true, but he cannot be relied upon. I'm saying it here. You know, he started the season off really strong, but he's, produced low numbers since week 4. Other than the one breakout game, which is week 9, I mean, he's averaged since his bye week of 6, minus the one standout game, only 2.25 points. That's not good, guys. That is bad. And this is not an exceptionally fantastic matchup for him, so I would say expect the average numbers, which again is going to be right around 3. Not pretty.
So Alex Smith on the bench, huh?
It's on the
Against the Raiders.
You know he's on the bench.
You know he is. Who's he going to throw the ball to?
Unless you're in a
Rainbow.
2-quarterback league, but other than that, he's on your bench.
So,
Well, this is going to be... Well, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, I do a lot of Twitter action, as we all do, but I think the answer to all of our questions this week is just Coby Fleener. I think I've said his name 400 times on Twitter. What should I do about this? Coby Fleener. What about this? Coby Fleener. What? Hey, I have a cold. Coby Fleener. I don't know.
Coby
Guys,
Fleener
here's my
it.
answer.
Fleener it.
If you're saying you'd rather play Coby Fleener than Travis Kelce, I would agree.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Yes. That's where it
Yes.
came from. Yes. I think you can play Coby Fleener over a lot of tight ends.
He's hot right now.
Could have a lot of the year. I mean, Coby Fleener is one of Luck's favorite targets. We'll get there when we get to the Colts, people. I've always loved Coby Fleener. I have him on a couple of my rosters. Let's get to the Oakland Raiders. There's a chance of showers, by the way. Keep an eye on the weather, you guys. It does affect the game.
Yep.
Play him if you got him. I've got one. It's Michael Rivera. I told you to bench him last week. He got 4 points, so I hope you did do that.
Good call. Unless you were it was between them and Kelce.
Yes, that's true. That's true. That's true.
In which case, Coby Fleener.
Coby Fleener. Yeah.
Perfect.
But the Kansas City Chiefs give up the 17th most fantasy points to tight ends, so it's right in the middle. But Rivera is really the only guy on Oakland that can do anything. So
I like him.
I like him. We're going to play him this week, you guys. No gut calls. Everybody else is on the bench. That's Derek Carr, who got you 4.88 points last week as a quarterback. James Jones, who got you 3.5. Andre Holmes, who got you 1.9. And Darren McFadden, that got you 2.1.
Those are some sexy numbers, Courtney.
Those are numbers. And you guys, Kansas City Chiefs give up the 11th fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks, 7th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers, and the 5th fewest fantasy points to running backs. This is not the matchup to be stretching for the Oakland Raiders, okay, guys?
No.
It's not it.
Nope.
If you're gonna grab for anything, it's Rivera. Other than that, you guys, Raiders are done. Let's move to the Sunday games. The Cleveland Browns 6-4, Atlanta Falcons 4-6.
Great. So, holy Batman, they cut Ben Tate. We'll start
I
with
know.
So
Apparently you shouldn't talk back. Rumor has it.
I was just going to say, remember last week I was like, so he complained, that's going to go one of two ways. But I didn't realize how far it would go in that direction.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Wow. Now, he did only rush the ball twice for -9 yards last week. So it's not like, in fantasy you were like, oh, I love this guy. What happened?
Yeah, what a blow to my roster. Yeah.
Right. But we'll talk about how he went to the Vikings and the suspensions and there's so much to talk about with the Vikings that there's really not much about Ben Tate other than the fact that we're back to now an Isaiah Crowell, Terrence West share, that they'll go back and forth, and their coach has said, I'm going to pick a different guy each week depending on practice, and so it's the same nightmare, you guys. Don't get all excited here.
We officially hate Pettin as well now.
Right. Yeah, for the most part. I mean, listen, well, got the start last week, carried the ball 14 times for 61 yards and caught 2 passes for 30 yards. But the fumbles are real. They're killing us. He's only had 2 fumbles lost this year, but 3 total. 1 got recovered. But Terrence West isn't going away. He's not officially the guy right now. He carried it 5 times for 12 yards last week. In other words, I don't know if I could tell you to start either of them. And who knew that the Browns could outdo themselves? Why do I say that? Because happy Josh Gordon week.
Yes.
Yay!
I'm excited for this one.
Yay!
Josh Gordon week.
You know Hoyer's got to be excited.
He looks good. He looks like he's in shape. He's ready to go. He's been doing edibles instead of smoking, so his lungs are great.
Relaxed.
Yeah. He's ready.
Relaxed is the key word with Gordon.
Yeah, relaxed.
Being relaxed. As I said before, though, I think this is a good thing for Hawkins. Josh Gordon still needs to learn what's going on with this team. It's a new team. It's a new year. Everything else. And his buddy Jordan Cameron is still out with a concussion. So it's a very different thing. While he's figuring it out, listen, I like it. Atlanta gives up the 6th most fantasy points to wide receivers. I think there's enough love for both of them this week, so I am enjoying both of them. But to be honest with you, who knows what's going to happen? This is a whole new team in Week 12.
But so exciting, right? Because you're going into the playoffs, which is just, I shouldn't say they for sure are, but that whole conference that's nuts.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there, but you can. No, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know who these people are. I was on the phone with my best friend, Stephanie Classy, and her 9-year-old son, Noah, is like my little soulmate and future Hall of Fame head coach. And I literally was like, so what's going to happen with Josh Gordon being back, buddy? And he, went off. So in honor of this, I'm going to give analysis from a 9-year-old because it's just as pertinent, if not more so, to a completely new team in Week 12. Quote from Noah Classy. Josh Gordon is going to bring a spark to the team. Having the main man back in the offense is going to do a ton for the Browns. The fans are going to light it up. He's a key player. He's as big as Calvin Johnson. He's got big, good hands. I think he's going to target Gordon even if he's in coverage. Hoyer is going to like having him back and get him the ball a lot. He's a good athlete. Yeah. I think that sums it up.
He actually said that?
That's exactly what he said.
Exact word for word? 9-year-old?
9-year-old Noah Classy, future Hall of Fame coach.
Solid work, Noah.
Nice, Noah. Nice. Light it up. I think that's what Josh Gordon's going to do. Light it up.
There you go.
No pun intended.
No pun
Browns,
intended.
most exciting team in the NFL, Week 12.
Boom.
Atlanta Falcons.
Falcons. You don't know Jim Dre at all?
Oh, well, I could tell you that Jim Dre is the guy filling in for Jordan Cameron and no one cares. That was my note.
Perfect. That's just what I wanted to hear. I just wanted to hear say that nobody cares about him.
Well,
And it's a fun name.
Kobe Fleener.
Kobe Fleener. Right up. Falcons.
It is a good name.
Claim if you got him. Mr. Roddy White.
Roddy White.
Roddy.
All right.
You know, Roddy has emerged as the top receiver the past 4 games here. So he had 16 points, have a mediocre week with 6, then 13 and 13. He has found the end zone 3 of the last 4 games, and most importantly, he's actually being targeted a lot. He's been targeted about 12 times last week for 75 yards and a touchdown. It was a short 2-yard touchdown, but still, points are points.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, he is being targeted about the same as Julio, but he's being more productive with his touches. So that has me concerned with Julio, who's now in my gut call section, right? Because he's just not putting up the numbers that you're looking for.
Crazy.
It's crazy. Actually, he's getting targeted quite a bit. He got 6 of 11, so again, he's not converting a lot of his targets into actual catches. Is for 59 yards. And for me, the biggest issue is that he's not being targeted in the end zone. I mean, he has not scored a touchdown since week 3. That's crazy when you're looking at what we envisioned Julio from previous seasons. So it's I want to say temper your expectations because Roddy seems to be the man in the red zone. So it's just oof.
And they have good corners in Cleveland.
They do have good corners.
Mm-hmm.
My other gut call, Steven Jackson. Here's the deal.
Mm.
Is he productive? Rarely. Is he consistent? Not even close. But if you are in a PPR league, he does get touches. So he is averaging 17 touches per game the last 3 games. He only rushed for 41 yards, so clearly he's not doing much with his touches. But if you're in PPR, you don't quite care as much. So the issue is he's not able to find the end zone as well. So the good news is when you're getting that many touches, I think something's got to go right sooner than later. Right?
Is he catching the ball? I've ignored Steven Jackson. I'm a terrible person.
I mean, that was for rushing. He had 17 touches rushing.
Right. But people,
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's catching the ball as well a bit. Yeah, he catches, but it's just
I'm
he's
just talking about his, points per reception. So
right. I mean, he's in it, is what I'm saying. So he did with a few games. He's got 17 touches on average. The last 3 games. So he's in the mix. Something good has to come from that at some point here.
All right, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up Steven Jackson last week to play because I had guys on bye and injured and whatnot. I now, this week, have Steven Jackson or Chris Ivory.
Mm-hmm.
My back is my second running back. Who do I play?
Steven Jackson.
I'm sorry, it's Steven Jackson or who? I'm just totally blanked out.
Chris Ivory.
I'd go Steven Jackson.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't like it, but
I know, it's really bad. It's really bad. It's a good time, though.
if something good doesn't happen this week, then we're done with him. We're done with his 17 touches. We're over it.
Fair enough.
We're over all the rest of the Falcons running backs and Matt Ryan. I only am mentioning Matt Ryan for the fact that I predicted he'd get 14 points, and he got exactly 14 points last week.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
It is all he seems to get is 14 points. So when you think 14, think Matt Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Ryan, I like it.
Okay, when you think 12, you can think Colin Kaepernick.
Nice. Nice.
And a quick little hatch of Anton Smith, guys. He is out on IR.
Oh, the man with all the potential in the world.
And it's borderline not even worth mentioning because the Falcons refuse to use him properly, but I just want to make it clear in case you were holding on to this guy for some sort of boom kind of game, get rid of him. Get him out of your roster.
Dun, 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 dun. We have the New York Jets 2-8, the Buffalo Bills 5-5.
Yes, we do. So, frankly, the Bills have a great defense. We just don't talk about them enough. And I'm going to start with the Jets, but by starting with the Jets, I'm going to start with the Buffalo defense. So, they're up against, they're the weakest against receivers. They give up the 18th most points, which is mediocre, but it's the weakest for them, which means, drumroll please, Brandon on repeat. Start Eric Decker and Percy Harvin. They get catches, especially if you're in a PPR league. You're welcome. Hi.
All right.
All right. I'm the only one talking about this. Eric Decker.
Decker.
Yes. Before the bye, he caught only 3 of 4 targets for 24 yards. But Michael Vick only had 18 attempted passes. Like, it was a weird game. So those targets will go up. And the week before that, he caught 9 out of 12 targets. So that's what we're talking about. 9 points just from catching the ball, you guys. Hello. Percy Harvin, same with Percy. He only caught 3 of 5 targets for 23 yards. He rushed around a little bit against the Steelers, too. But once again, the week before the bye, he caught 11 out of 13 targets. They're going to have to pass the ball because they're not going to be able to run on the Bills. It's tough. He's listed as probable with a heel, but he seems fine. So the press, he's talking about how he's up in his game because he wants a contract, so I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go down with this Jets receivership. It's going to be my best or worst call forever. But I feel like as far as mediocre players are concerned, I'm so sick of talking about like the Saints and the 49ers and their receivers. Everyone wants to talk about them, and I'm like, why aren't we talking about Percy Harvin and Eric Decker? You would much rather have them. Trust me.
I agree.
So, got calls. Jets defense. So the Jets aren't fabulous, but they do have 27 sacks of the season, which is the 8th most in the league, and the Bills give up the 9th most points to fantasy defenses. So they're something to think about. Bench warmers, listen, I have a difficult time with both elements of crisscross right now. It makes me sad because I was so excited to use crisscross all season. Bad. They've just scored 6 rushing touchdowns combined on the season, and the Bills
was really short-lived, huh?
Chris Cross was like week 1.
Yeah,
it was over.
One-hit wonder, just like the band.
Yeah, it was a one-hit wonder. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
So here are Chris Ivory's last 4 scores: 18.5, 16.3, 2.2, 5.1. Chris Johnson's last 4 scores: 8, 2, 10.1, 3.5.
Technically, Chris Johnson should have an on week right now, right?
Yeah.
Good, bad. Good.
But his good cap is 10.
Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah. I think if I'm going to start one, I'd start Ivory, I think. Still. And I'm also not going to tell you to start Michael Vick or Jason Morrow, but I am telling you later in the season I might tell you to start them, but not against the Bills. And I'm a little sad for Geno. You guys, I was doing this write-up and I had weird pangs for Geno. I know that's weird, but
This is weird.
I don't know. Moving on to the Bills. So, things that I hate. A vote of confidence from the coach. So the coach came out and was like, right now, we're sticking with Kyle Orton. Now, do you like the words right now?
No.
No. I do not. And actually, I think that switching from EJ Manuel was a mistake. I like Kyle Orton. I just feel like it was really early in the season. He wasn't that bad. There were a lot of issues. Anyway, moving on. Sammy Watkins. Let me tell you what's going on with Sammy Watkins. He cannot play against shut-down corners. This week, against the Jets, great matchup. Play him. Play him with ease. Feel great about it. Next week, when he goes up against Joe Hayden, no thank you. So this is what we're going to have to do now. He's a matchup guy. It's the way it is. However, the guy who is, I guess, Kyle Orton's lunch buddy, and they go out for drinks after practice or whatever, Chris Hogan. All right, we'll talk about you.
You got it.
Fine. Do you ever have those guys where you're like, I really didn't think this was going to pan out, but fine.
Fine.
Okay, so
You're noteworthy.
2 weeks ago, he caught 5 of 7 targets for 57 yards and a touchdown, and last week he caught 7 of 9 targets for 74 yards. In good matchups, he's worth a play, and I think he's worth a play over Robert Woods, which makes me sad, but it's true. Bills defense, as I said, ballin', biggest must start. They give up the 6th fewest points to opponents. They have the most sacks in the league with 39. The next highest is 33. They have 6 more sacks in the season than the next in second place. That's crazy. They're tied for 6th in interceptions, and then the second most of fumbles, 9. So the Jets give up a ton of points to defenses. Go for it. Got calls. I'm saying Kyle Orton because of the matchup, but gosh, only 193 yards and 0 touchdowns last week. Ooh. But it was Thursday night, so
It's weird.
The Thursday night kind of curse.
Fred Jackson is the only running back, again, that I would play on the Buffalo Bills if he is healthy. But against the Jets, I don't know if I'd do that either. So I don't know why people keep asking me questions about Anthony Booby Dixon. I just can't take it.
His name's
And
Booby.
Do you guys even think there's going to be a game?
What do you mean?
Well, Buffalo has been like crazy
Snowed out.
snowed out, and it said like you have to like crazy amount of tons of snow that they have to take out of the stadium for it to be even functional. Not alone for people to be able to get to the stadium and to like park to work it or anything. I mean it. There's some crazy pictures out there of Fred Jackson with like his shirt off in the snow, and like it's pretty awesome. He's amazing.
I think they'll still have it though.
He was on NFL Network today. I think it was NFL Network, maybe it was ESPN, and he was he's like, you just gotta make sure you take your turn your furnace off occasionally, and like getting into all of this, like what you need to do in the snow, and it was crazy. But this is gonna be a banana game, like bananas. So.
I think that the snow is done falling, although it could change, right? Like there's a whole polar vortex crazy town thing going on right now. So you're right. You can't get up there right now.
And they haven't practiced all week. None of the Buffalo Bills have practiced all week.
Yeah. You're right. I should put that in my analysis.
Which makes it exciting.
Makes it exciting. Yeah.
They're just more well rested.
Our man Schlereth was on, and he was like, I had a game very similar to this in Washington, and it just got us all pumped up. Like, yeah, this is the elements. This is football, you know.
This is our house.
Yeah, and then they had to fly out somewhere else that also had snow, but they ended up winning. So, go Buffalo.
I'm into Buffalo. I think this is a good game for them.
Me too.
Good luck with the snow, buddies. And Fred Jackson, you're my hero. You have been all season.
Yeah.
You are.
I don't care if you're hurt. I don't care.
I don't care. I sit in the snow all week. He's good.
Yeah.
We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2-8, Chicago Bears 4-6.
Tampa Bay, TB. Mike Evans.
I'm into them. They're kind of coming to fruition, you guys. Do you feel happy?
I do. Totally gonna win the Super Bowl this year.
Remember we predicted early on how good they would be, and then they were a total mess. And now they're kind of coming back on, you know?
Yeah.
It's an exciting little end here.
Good. It's so good.
We'll see. But, I was all excited about Mike Evans last week after he scored 18 points, with a new quarterback. So there was this nervousness about him because he had scored 24 points in Week 9 with Glennon, and then people were nervous about his production possible drop-off because McCown was coming back. Clearly this is not a problem, as he scored 18 points with him and then 32 points last week. He had 209 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, and this kid's had over 100 yards in the last 3 games. So I cannot say enough about him. I'm obsessed with Mike Evans.
Yeah.
I love him. Now, Josh McCown, I have in my gut call section. This is 2 weeks in a row that McCown has been in top 5 quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Very interesting. And he's consistent, to say the least, with 19 points back-to-back weeks. He's thrown 2 touchdowns both of those weeks. He's thrown almost 300 yards for both of those weeks. So if you are in a pinch or you're simply not liking your starting quarterback, you got maybe Cam Newton's out and by. Think about him.
And the Bears are bad.
They are bad. And what's crazy is that he is only owned in 11% of ESPN leagues. So he is out there. He is out there for the taking. Just saying. Give it a thought. And then my bench is Vincent Jackson. You should only use him if you absolutely need to. He's averaging 6.4 points, which is okay. But his upside is low, and it keeps tanking, as Evans is clearly the man in town now there.
Yeah.
And he's only scored 4 points last week, and the Redskins secondary is by no means a powerhouse, at all. Now, granted, all the love went to Evans, and they might spread the ball around a little bit more because the Bears are a slightly better secondary, but just slightly. So probably not. So don't expect a whole lot there. And then Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back situation. This is more of an update than anything incredibly insightful, as we've already told you many times, to avoid all of these guys like the plague. But as predicted, Bobby Rainey got, 5 carries for a pathetic 4 yards. Doug Martin is allegedly the starter, so he was in for him. But then Charles Sims actually got the bulk of the workload, but was barely better with 13 carries for, wait for it, 36 yards.
Woo!
Terrible. It is terrible. You don't care who's getting the bulk of the workload. Just stay away from all of them. We are done with the Bucs.
I would like to say, for the record, I told you to start your Bears. It's 2 against 1.
You did.
And I win. I was like, in fantasy, it's totally
Well,
different
we
than
said
football.
Jay Cutler.
Yeah,
And
it was
he's
Jake Cutler.
ballin'. And
We
he
said nothing wrong with Alshon Jeffrey or Brandon Marshall or Forte.
It's true. It's true. It's true. Ballin'. Listen, whatever. It is what it is. It's fantasy football. It is not real football. The Bears are the poster children for that fact. So, yeah, start Jay Cutler. And this is against Tampa Bay, which you can start everyone against Tampa Bay, even in bad teams. So, start Jay Cutler, even though he sucks. But
It's like, you don't have a little asterisk there being like, I mean, he sucks. But you can still start him this week.
when I give advice, I'm not necessarily doing it because I feel good about it. I'm just looking at the numbers. And then Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall. Wow, they really blew it up last week.
Marshall finally looked like himself again with some really
Yeah.
powerful catches, with some really solid muscle grabs there. So
Yeah, it was good. And then, my fantasy football soulmate, the guy who wins me all my championships, Matt Forte. Do it. Gut calls is still Martellus Bennett, though, because he's still dealing with that rib injury. It's not, that's what's going on. They give up the 19th most points to tight ends. That's their toughest thing, which is crazy, but they might not use him much. And then Ben Schwarmers. I'm still not starting those Bears defense, though, especially against Josh McCown and Mike Evans. No, thank you.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Bye. All right, we got the Cincinnati Bengals 6-3-1 at the Houston Texans 5-5.
Yep.
I just can't believe the Cincinnati Bengals have 6 wins. Just want to say that before I get started here. The weather is sunny. Sunny in Houston. Good for Houston. All right, play him if you got him. Giovanni Bernard, welcome back. AJ
He's
Green,
back.
Mohamed Sanu. Bernard is listed as questionable going into Week 12 with a hip injury. He suffered in Week 8 against Baltimore, but the Bengals are ready to put him in. Back in the lineup. Let's do it. We love our Giovanni.
I have Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard, so I should bench Jeremy Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
I mean, stay tuned till Sunday morning. But I would go with Bernard. I would. That's my feeling. But they were 2-1 without him. So although Hill had 2 great games in the Bengals' victories, now that the Bernard is back, Hill, is no more than a flex option, I would say, this week. Houston gives up the 14th most fantasy points to running backs. So this, I think, is a good week for Bernard to come back and ease his way back into it. I said that both Green and Sanu would come back last week against the Saints. I was half right. Green had 8 targets to Sanu's 6 targets, but Green was able to get 127 yards and a touchdown. And Sanu got 23 yards on 3 receivers.
I'm so sad.
That happened. Green is back, and I have no concern with him having another great game this week. It's going to be fine. Sanu has now had 2 games in a row with 2 fantasy points. I am not pushing the panic button yet, you guys, but he has moved from a wide receiver 2 to a wide receiver 3/flex. We're talking Andy Dalton here. I would still put Sanu in your lineup while the Texans give up the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers. So I would still play him. Suggest that you play him against Houston. Gut calls Andy Dalton. After telling you to drop Dalton, he might be an okay play this week.
I love his hair, though. And not just that it's redhead, but that, I love his haircut.
It's free flowing. It is a nice haircut.
I will give points for that.
I know. Well, if he had style points.
He's my Jay Cutler. Andy Dalton's my Jay Cutler. You might have to start him even though he sucks. After coming off his negative fantasy point game against Cleveland, he came back with 22 fantasy points against the Saints. Instead of having 3 interceptions and no touchdowns, he had 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Nice, Dalton.
Nice,
He is officially a boom or bust quarterback, for
Yep.
sure. I mean, he's not even consistent like Kaepernick with 12 points. He is boom or bust. He should have another okay game. With all of his weapons back, Houston gives up the 17th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, so, it'll be okay. If you need him, you need him.
Yeah.
Benchwarmers Jermaine Gresham. Okay. Do not look at his fantasy points from last week and think he's a viable play, people. Stop it. He is not. Gresham had 2 receptions for 2 touchdowns and 13 yards. Okay? 2 receptions.
And one was a fumble.
I was like, what was a
one,
fumble?
that's what
Like,
I'm
one
saying.
was not
One
even
of those
like
touchdowns he
Yeah.
fumbled, then kicked into the end zone and fell on.
Yeah.
I can't.
The refs missed him kicking it into the end zone. It was an illegal touchdown. But c'est la vie. He got the fantasy points. If you started him, you're a genius. But this is not going to happen again, you guys. Before last week, he averages around 3 fantasy points per game. So, don't do it.
Freak week.
Freak week.
Freak week is what you're saying.
If everybody was allowed to kick their fumbles into the end zone,
We'd all be winners.
we'd all be
You know
winners.
what the answer is to that?
Mark
Kobe
Sanchez. Kobe Fleener.
Kobe
It
playing.
is. It's Kobe Fleener. It is.
What'd you say, Courtney?
I said Mark Sanchez. I
Oh,
don't know, fumble. It just sounded appropriate.
Oh,
I heard something totally different that was not appropriate, but I'm glad that was not what you said. Anyway,
Exciting.
claim if you got him for the Texans. DeAndre Hopkins, guys, he's consistent, to say the least. So
Yep.
he's the leading receiver for the Texans right now. There is no other way to slice it or dice it. He is averaging 9.4 points. And the best part about him is that he is consistent. He only had that one bad week. So other than that, you can expect 8 points each week from this guy. Now, since he is a tough, second toughest corners in the league actually, but he's found his groove. So I feel good that he's still going to do well this week. I feel good about him. And then I want to do a little shout out to my boy J.J. Watts. We do not rank individual defensive players, but
we should. He's definitely number 1. He is the MVP
He's the
of
man.
2014.
He's got 4 touchdowns on the year, guys.
And it's crazy. It's crazy. And they're not good. They're not a good team.
No.
And yet he is amazing. It's crazy.
It's crazy town. Clearly those box jumps do a buddy good. He is like a scoring beast right now. But unfortunately, if you're like an Andre Johnson owner, he is stealing potential touchdowns from you. So I'm sorry, but J.J. Watt is still
I've heard that some people are like, why is he not eligible? That if he's played tight end and has scored and caught catches, why can he not be a tight end? If Denard Robinson can still be a wide receiver, which is insane.
In fantasy?
Well, you
Yeah.
just have to declare that you're eligible, right?
Yeah, anyone can be eligible. You just have to
Yeah.
declare. You have to line up that way. But
Yeah.
Not
I thought it was interesting that
fantasy.
people
That's
were
a
like-
stretch. That's
well,
no, people.
okay,
Stop.
well,
it.
the answer to that is Kobe Fleener, obviously.
The answer to that is the
Obviously.
Houston's defense.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's interesting, though. I think it's interesting.
I just love that he's like becoming their go-to guy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love it. So, but at some point here, defenses are going to have a little package whenever they see J.J. Watt lined up. So, we'll see. But my gut calls are Arian Foster and Alfred Blue. Foster was held out last week with a groin injury, so Blue got the start, and he did well. He did really well. So Foster did return to practice on Wednesday, but is still being considered day by day by the Texans organization. So is his return to practice a good sign? Yeah. Should you be jumping up and down just now with glee that he's a given for this week? No. That's a good way to hurt your groin. Don't do it. So if Foster...
Blow out your knee if your defensive player is celebrating.
Yep. So
Don't
so
do
many
it.
possible injuries. But, if Foster is held out, get your hands on Alfred Blue, as he was the 7th highest scoring running back last week. He was filling some big shoes, but he had 156 yards. And what's even more crazy, he had 36 touches. 36.
Yeah.
That's like nuts. But what this does tell you, what should excite you, is that clearly the Texans team is still committed to the ground and pound game, whether Arian Foster is in or Alfred Blue. They have the confidence in Blue to still form their offense around the run. So this is good news for you if indeed Foster doesn't play, that you're not nervous that they're going to completely change their game plan. So that's good news. Bench is Garrett Graham. Graham had his best game of the year this week, scoring a touchdown and 34 yards. So, he had 9 points, but he hadn't scored a touchdown since week 14 of last season.
Yeah.
This guy is not used in the offense even remotely in any sort of substantial way. So pat him on the back, say good game, buddy, and keep on going with somebody else. Do not waste your time even thinking about Garrett Graham.
Kobe Fleener.
Kobe Fleener.
Kobe Fleener, people. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars 1-9 at the Indianapolis.
Kobe's going to suck it so bad this week. Since we're all like Kobe Fleener. Kobe.
No way. He's in.
Well, we're talking about it now, and I think that Courtney just said Jacksonville Jaguars at Indianapolis Colts. So,
yeah, I know.
I think
we're
we
okay.
Yeah. So here's the thing about Jacksonville. Did you know that Toby Gerhart has only he's only scored 32.9 fantasy points all season?
I'm not even remotely surprised. There was all this Toby Gerhart hype, and I never understood it. I never hopped on that bandwagon, and I'm glad it's over.
But do you know that he's also the 7th highest scoring player on the team?
That is sad.
Wow.
It is true.
You can't compare bad apples with bad apples. to put in a lineup.
Coming out there. So Denard Robinson is in the play if you got him. I call him the season saver. He and Justin Forsett, TM, trademark. Yeah. Since week 7, he's either gone for over 94 yards or he scored 2 touchdowns. In other words, he's balling. And Indianapolis gives up the 4th most points to running backs. Ouch.
Hey.
So they'll just feed him the ball. I don't know what else they'll do. However, our friend, yes, I said our friend, Allen Robinson, I really, really like, was placed on IR 2 weeks ago due to a broken foot, but they were on bye. So we mentioned it at the top of the show last week, but we just want to remind you. I love this guy. I'm excited to draft him next year. It's sad. However, Alan Hearns, questionable with a concussion. Cecil Shorts, probable with a hamstring. Marquise Lee, probable with an ankle.
Wide receivers are looking good.
Winnie! The answer to this? Trent Richardson.
See, there you go. Well, for running backs, but for wide receivers, there is no answer.
I'm just saying, because the Colts aren't going to need to, make that much of an effort. You just hand the ball off.
Oh, that's true. They're just going to use John Robinson. However, I will say I think Cecil Shorts is the guy that I would target in this. 2nd would be Alan Hearns. 3rd would be Marquise Lee. But Marquise Lee was a guy that was really, everyone was high on in the beginning of the season. He got hurt. He was out for a ton of games. So now that he's back, who knows? So just keep an eye on what's going on here. If you're hurting at wide receiver, this might be a nice place for you. Bench warmers, Blake Bortles, you just can't.
Can't do it.
Can't do it.
Cannot do it.
If you're hurting for wide receiver, pick up one of these 3 guys that are all questionable.
That are also all boomer busts, even when they're healthy.
On a really bad team.
It's good. Yeah. It's on a really against the Colts.
You got to take a flyer somewhere, right?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Do it.
Do it. Do it. All right, Indianapolis Colts. The Colts fell to the Patriots last week after losing 2 of their key players. Oh, sad. Ahmad Bradshaw went out early with a fractured fibula and ankle. He will be placed on IR and most likely is done playing for the Colts, you guys. Adios, my friend. You were fun while it lasted.
He was so good, though.
So good. That's a bummer. That's a big bummer.
He will be a free agent next year at a ripe age of 29. Hey, Broncos. Maybe.
I can't go there yet.
Dwayne Allen is listed questionable for Week 12, but most likely will not play, so the rumor is. He has yet to practice with an ankle sprain. He is a huge part of the blocking for Luck, more or less for even your fantasy team. That's really a crucial part of the offensive line is Mr. Dwayne Allen. So that's not healthy. But play him if you got him, you guys. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars. We got Andrew Luck, T.Y. Hilton, Reggie Wayne, Kobe Fleener, Adam Vinatieri, and the Colts defense. Do it, you guys.
We're playing the whole team, are we, Court?
Yep, we're playing the whole team. I told you guys.
Except for the Colts
Patriots?
defense, because they can't handle that Jacksonville second receivers.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
They're gonna go off, and you're gonna feel so bad.
No, I'm gonna be
Yeah, they are.
excited if they do go
All
off.
three of them are gonna boom all over you, Ashley.
Boom.
Not likely, but I'll be excited.
Patriots. I told you the Patriots are going to focus on Hilton, and that's exactly what they did. I'm not concerned about him. That he's going to have a great week this week. Reggie Wayne saw 9 targets for 91 yards. He's a must-start this week, coming off 2 back-to-back good games. The Jags go up the 11th most fantasy points to wide receivers. You guys are doing it. Coby Fleener is the new shiny toy of the NFL, and to Andrew Luck.
And to us, clearly.
And to us. It's the Fleener week. He caught
Fleener.
all 7 targets for 144 yards. He saw 11 targets the week before that, and the end zone. So I love him. We all love him. We're high on some Fleener right now. I got gut calls.
When in
What?
doubt, Fleener.
When in doubt, Fleener it out. Gut calls. Trent Richardson.
That sounds so dirty. You say when in
Fleener,
doubt,
you know,
Fleener it
Fleener
out.
does not sound dirty.
It sounds like cleaning.
Are you serious?
Cleaner? I could see cleaning.
Yeah, like
Cleaner
the
sounds like a word
cleaner.
a kid makes up in preschool.
When in doubt, Fleener it out.
You're such a fleener. That seems like
Doesn't
that
sound like
to me.
fling it out. When in doubt, fling it out. Fleener it out. No.
Oh man.
Ashley, I did not go there, but that is funny.
That's
is good.
immediately where I went.
Well, of course it is. I'm into that. That's good stuff.
And I was thinking cleaning.
Yeah.
I was thinking like
So
a made-up bad word from a play.
All of our personalities encompassed in this one moment.
There it is. There it is, guys. You can't make this stuff up.
nope.
Trent Richardson's in my gut calls. Now that Bradshaw is out for the rest of the season, the running game will be going to Richardson. You guys don't forget that the reason why the Colts got Bradshaw in the first place is because Richardson was not performing. Okay? He's still not performing.
Well, he started to do a little better, right? But that's because Bradshaw was in, and he wasn't the main focus.
Yeah.
So I'm a little nervous that he's like the.
Even then, his average per
Yeah,
carry
it's
is not good. He's not my favorite guy to rely on. I know he's the number 1 guy. If you're in a deep league, sure.
Is Karen gonna take over though?
As I say, if you're in a really deep league, the number 2 guy is
I
Daniel
didn't want to
Huron. He hasn't been anything special either, but hey, got to put the name out there. You never know. He might pull a Gray on you and score 4 touchdowns.
We are now.
Sure.
But it's not my favorite team to have the running game on either. There's worse choices out there than Richardson, too. So he's a gut call. Only you know how desperate you are, people.
Yeah.
And the bench, no one. It's the Jags, you guys. Let's play them all. Green Bay Packers 7-3 at the Minnesota Vikings 4-6.
Great. The Tundra game. Didn't matter where they played. It was going to be cold.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Chance of rain/sleet.
And the Packers just looked terrible last week.
yeah.
So bad.
Really
They didn't
bad.
pull their offense together.
Jeez. Embarrassing.
Seriously, how they sleep at night.
Yeah. My analysis, you guys, it's so interesting. Now that we're in week 12, my analysis just goes really short because it is clear. One of the things that I will say, though, is that Eddie Lacy, in my opinion, is most improved player from week 1 to week 12. He started off the season plotting, it's nuts. He's getting about the same amount of carries, but what he's doing with it is epically different. Congratulations, Eddie Lacy. Great start all the rest of the way. You're going to start, Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb. They're also the perfect, if you play daily fantasy, they are the kind of people you want to spend your money on. Again, every week. It's every week with those guys.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Gut calls, once again, Devontae Adams. I'm putting him in gut calls because I don't think this is going to be his week, but I like him rest of season, especially at home. He seems to almost, I think it's like 80% of the time or something, he scores a touchdown at home. He doesn't have a lot of catches. Last week he only had 2 targets. He caught both of them for 13 yards and a touchdown. But when you're looking for one of those flex guys, he's really kind of right there. So bench warmers, Andrew Quarles. So the Vikings give up the absolute least points to tight ends, which means that I get a week off of pretending like he could break out.
Good stuff.
I don't know why you waste your time with that anymore.
That's fun.
Because sometimes if a tight end's in a really good matchup, there's a possibility they can get a touchdown.
Yeah, but then there's Fleener out there.
Fleener.
I like it. Well, let's get into the Minnesota Vikings with more money, more problems.
Oh, yeah.
Problems all over the place.
You mean the reason we stop more money, more problems?
Yep. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it all, but the NFL has suspended AP for the rest of the season. He can appeal, which means he might be actually playing. Who knows? But the Vikings made their move today and picked up Ben Tate from the Cleveland Browns. So that to me means that they're not interested in starting AP whether or not he's eligible during appealing process. The NFL said that they're not going to see his appeal until, I believe, April. I think they really want to let this, come down a little bit and deal with this Ray Rice issue first.
Well, I think, aren't they asking for an arbitrator versus Goodell reviewing the appeal?
Right.
Well, he also has to provide proof that he's gone to counseling and stuff, too.
I think that's what screwed him, was the fact he didn't even show up for the meeting, and that he hasn't really
we don't need to get into
some of these things.
Why, but yeah, that's weird. Well, supposedly his lawyer told him not to.
To not do those things?
To not go to the meeting, because supposedly it was basically they were saying that the league had overstepped their bounds. And I'm like, listen,
show up for that
the
meeting.
media's all over this. You should just go and at least try to figure out what's going on. But yeah, weird.
Or how about, who cares if it's a league or court ordered? Why wouldn't you just want to do it yourself? You've been caught, so now it's time to deal with the problem, right? That to me is the logical step, but hey.
Drama.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, so they picked up Ben Tate. So we'll see how that goes. It's kind of, it's interesting. It's
but
the
I
Vikings
hate that.
this year. I don't hate it. It's perfect. It's a perfect spot for him.
Yeah, but I want McKinnon.
I said it's already blurry with McKinnon and Asiata, and then now I've got Tate.
No, you guys. No, it's not. All right?
Okay.
I made a mistake last week, and I told you guys to play the Vikings because they were playing against the Bears, and the Bears suck. I messed up. I'm sorry. I'm going to correct my problem, and I'm benching everybody on the Vikings this week, you guys.
All right.
They're all on the bench. Let's get it covered. Teddy Bridgewater had 8.52 points. McKinnon had 5.8 points. Asiata had 1.4 points.
Yeah.
Ben Tate, now a Viking, had negative 0.9 points. Cordell Patterson had 2.7 points. And Greg Jennings had 0.4. Kyle Rudolph had 0. 0 targets, 0 catches, 0, 0, 0.
Courtney, why are you talking straight sexy stats to us?
It's sexy in the Minnesota Vikings stadium. It's crazy talk.
I love these numbers on the 8.
I know. I can't make this stuff up, you guys. It's the truth. Now, to my defense, Jennings exited the game early last week with a rib injury and is listed as questionable this week against Green Bay, who gives up the 9th most fantasy points to wide receivers. Kyle Rudolph did not see any targets on 14 snaps last week. I don't see Rudolph with his injury and Bridgewater and his inexperience being a viable option for another game or two. I'm not saying Rudolph won't be a good play down the stretch in playoffs, but let's give these guys some time, okay? And yeah, the backfield is now a very crowded backfield and an injured one to that. I didn't like McKinnon or Asiata anyways because the second you feel good about McKinnon, Asiata came in and scored 3 touchdowns.
It's true.
So throw Ben Tate in there. Let's just take out the Vikings running game too. Okay, we'll put him on the list with the Rams and everybody else and just say, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. All right,
like
it just is what it is. So I wouldn't start any of them. Done. That's it. Detroit Lions 7-3 at the New England Patriots 8-2.
The Lions looked ugly last week. It was not good. So, Calvin Johnson and Golden Tate are both in my play if you got them. Because, even though these guys had bad weeks, I'm talking 4 points and 5 points, there is no way but to expect that anything less when the final score is 14-6 with the Lions losing. I mean, it's obviously not going to be high scoring at that point.
Yeah.
So it was not pretty, but you know what? Forget about it. They played a really good team.
Forget about it.
These guys. But with that said, they are playing the Patriots, who are a very tough secondary and give up the third fewest points to receivers this year. With that said, I do think that both of them will bounce back. So don't lose faith in these guys. Stick with them.
All right.
Got called Joique Bell. Bell was having a decent game until he hurt his ankle. He left the game and did not practice on Wednesday. And the severity of Bell's injury, has yet to be made clear at the moment. So no one really knows who the running back will be for Detroit this week. So definitely check your injury reports. It could be Theo Riddick. It could be Reggie Bush. Maybe Bell will play. Tough to say. So you definitely need to make sure that you are looking at your actives and inactives when it comes to this team.
Yeah.
My bench, I've got, Reggie Wayne for that reason alone. And like we said, he's now missed 3 straight games. But he did practice Wednesday, granted he was limited in practice, so I don't want you to get your hopes up. But, they may try to rush him for the fact that Bell is out. So really be careful on whether you think you actually want to play him, because quite honestly, he hasn't been productive even when he has been playing this year. So I think you've got better options elsewhere.
Kardashian
Now, I
first.
also... Sure, yeah. Matthew Stafford is also on my bench. For sure. So I don't get it. The time has officially come to bench Matthew Stafford. This is a very sad day. It is upsetting, But this guy just had a horrible, horrible game. He only completed 18 of 30. He threw for less than 200 yards with 183 yards. Your starting quarterback needs to be throwing at least 200 yards per game. Period.
I will say I'm happy
to happen.
The year I divorced Stafford, because I was in a long-term relationship with him. I was like, you know what, I'm moving on. And thank God.
Andrew Luck.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Well, he's not getting helped out. I guess sacked 4 times last week. That's especially bad if you're in a league where sacks count against you. So again, know your settings and your parameters to know, because there are certain quarterbacks that get sacked more than others. So keep that in mind. Now they were playing the Cardinals, who give up very tough defense. 5 points. I mean, it's just sad. He's only the 15th highest scoring quarterback for the season. So he's a middle-of-the-pack guy, and you need more than that if you're going to want to try to get into playoffs in your league. So you're going to have to avoid him, guys. Time for the bench. It's time.
We're benching him.
I mean, he was benched before, but it's like solidifying the bench.
And, we also, we say bench him, start him. Go to our rankings. Follow the rankings. We obviously are talking about, who's going to have a good game and a bad game. But a bad game might be good enough for you. So let's just say that out loud. I'm going to say that before I get into this New England Patriots analysis, because Detroit is no joke. Even though they lost last week, they gave up only 14 points.
Yep.
To the Cardinals. So they are legit. And I'm not loving the Patriots this week because of that. Let's get into their stats of Detroit. They give up the fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks, the 5th fewest to wide receivers, the 8th fewest to running backs, the 13th fewest to tight ends, the 7th fewest to kickers, 16th most to defenses. Hey,
there we go.
Hey, this might be another 14-6 kind of game, you guys. I'm just saying, prepare yourself on both ends. The Lions might not get you very many points, and the Patriots might not give you many points.
Should we prepare ourselves for Gronk to run somebody off the field again this week?
Oh my God, I love him. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is that Gronk is the only must start because it's Gronk and you have to. You have to. You can't.
Did you see how many tackles he busted through for that one touchdown? Like,
oh my
God,
that's nuts. I'm not convinced he's human. Seriously.
No, he's crazy. It's so good. It's so
and
good.
And the Twitter battle between, the two of them after the game, like, he's got straps, man, straps. Just like, I love it. It's crazy.
Just into
the other guy, how to throw him out of the club like a bouncer.
like a bouncer.
Now Gronk's a bouncer. I don't know if you
I
knew
like
that.
it.
Bouncer. Yeah.
That would be
You
the
have
most
to start
terrifying
him.
bouncer experience of my life.
Especially if he's
Guys,
wearing that
I'm
elbow.
gonna make a bold statement here, and I don't even like Gostkowski this week.
Oh,
Whoa.
no, that's offensive.
It's offensive, you guys. It is offensive. I mean, you're gonna start it because it's Gostkowski. He's the best kicker in the league, but he might only get you 2 field goals or 1 extra point, and that's just the reality of what might just go down next week. It's gonna be bananas. On my gut calls, I have everybody else: Tom Brady, Shane Vereen, Jonas Gray, Julian Edelman, and Brandon LaFell. It's Belichick, you guys. Love your Gray. Get on that bandwagon. Have a good time with him. But you know what? He might get you 2 points if you're lucky this week. All right?
Especially because Detroit gives up more passing yards to running backs than rushing yards to running backs.
And Vereen catches the balls. Gray rushes them. And I'm just telling you, I'm sorry for Vereen owners, my husband. Last week, that was not nice, Belichick. That was not nice. And I'm telling you, he's going to do it again because that's all he does is screw over running back owners. It's awful. He's a bad person. But that's the reality of it, you guys. You drafted them. You picked Gray up. You're going to play him if you really feel good about it. I'm telling you, I don't. I'm not sold. And plus, as I said, I don't think this game's going to have that many points. Who I actually kind of do like is Tim Wright this week. It's crazy. This is a stretch. He's very consumed with a lot of busts. But they're going to forget about him. They're going to be concentrating on Gronk. They're going to be concentrating on Edelman, keeping Brandon on the outside. And Tim might be able to just flutter in there and get a touchdown in 15 yards. I'm just saying, if that's good enough for you, it's good enough for me. Put him in.
Brandon's making a face.
Brandon's into
I
it.
have been huge on Fleener and Tim Wright. Actually, when I was on the Fantasy Funhouse on SiriusXM, which I do on Fridays, I will be there every Friday starting the first Friday in December, with Nando DeFino. And we were on there all together 2 weeks ago. Last week, though, I was like, Tim Wright, great rest of season schedule for tight ends. And Gronk, I'm not saying Gronk's going to do any less. I'm just saying Tim Wright might be doing more. I like him. I'm with you. I'm so with you this week, Courtney.
You feeling me? This is good feeling motion. I like it.
I couldn't tell if she was feeling you or hating you at that moment.
I know. Well, it's intense.
I could feel this.
It was intense feelings for sure. I'm glad it was positive.
Yeah. It's gonna be an interesting game, you guys. It's gonna be an interesting game. This is not gonna be a fantasy orgy. I have a feeling. Tennessee Titans 2-8. The Philadelphia Eagles 7-3.
Titans. Interesting team. I will say, kind of like with Buffalo, you really need to reassess teams when teams switch quarterbacks. Same with the Rams. We'll talk about later too. It really can completely change the dynamic of the team. So, yes, the Titans are 2-8, but they're an improved 2-8 team. I would say. I might be optimistic, but play if you got them. We still have no one. You're still not automatically playing anybody on the Titans. Let's not kid ourselves. But gut calls. Zach Mettenberger. I love they were calling it the Burger Bowl last week too between Mettenberger and Roethlisberger.
I know, it's good.
Love it.
Burger Bowl.
Yeah, but so it's Zach Mettenberger. So are you starting him? Absolutely not. But is he worth a consideration in a 2-quarterback league? Yes. He'll be playing the Eagles, who given up quite a few touchdowns this year. He was the 10th highest scoring quarterback last week. So perhaps the Titans have maybe actually found their guy. Just maybe. So we'll see. Now, Kendall Wright and Justin Hunter, when you watch the game, you're thinking, oh, they don't look half bad. They look pretty good. Yeah. And then you look at the numbers after the game, and you're like, oh, Hunter scored 4 points and Wright scored 7.
Yep.
It looked better than that, but it wasn't. Now, these guys do, I would say, have a better upside with Mettenberger under center, but it's getting awfully close to playoffs to be playing such risky plays as these guys. Again, only you know how desperate you are. If you're that desperate, I like Wright more than I like Hunter, but I would say at least wait another week to see what kind of chemistry they create. Bishop Sankey. I kind of thought about not talking about him at all this week because he's in my bench section. But I just can't help myself. I just can't. But, all right. I know. So Sankey owners hate me. I get it. But hear me out here. So Sankey does look better than his numbers display. I will grant you that. But sadly, in fantasy, at the end of the day, all that matters is the numbers. That's all that matters. He scored 9 points last week, and that was off 38 yards and a touchdown. But what people seem to be forgetting because they're watching the game and they're seeing him kind of darting about and looking pretty flashy and looking strong is that he only had 38 yards. He's only scored 2 touchdowns all season. So till the Titans can start to make their way down the field more consistently so that Sankey can be near the end zone, where this is where the only way he's actually going to score you like legit points, you can't be excited about him. It's just it's a fact. I'm sorry. It's not Sankey. It's the whole Titans offense. Now, Nate Washington, I don't want to get caught up in him as well. He scored his first touchdown of the year. But other than that, it's been a complete snooze fest with him. He scored 14 points last week. But other than that, the total points he has scored all season long has been 23. You cannot play this guy. It was fun to watch for one game, but we're done.
Agreed. As far as Philadelphia Eagles are concerned, whoops, somehow I just lost all my notes. That's okay. Because you know what? You know what's going on. It's called Jordan Matthews and Jeremy Maclin Show.
Yay! Liking it.
Nothing wrong.
With a little bump and grind.
I love them. They're what we're talking about. You know who else came back? Marky Mark. The Mark we know and love. Am I right? Am I right?
That's the Mark we're used to.
Little Marky Mark action. Okay, yeah. Well, that's fine. Last week he threw 2 interceptions, lost 2 fumbles. Still, tough matchup. It was cold. We know he doesn't like the cold. This week he'll fare better against Tennessee, although it'll still be cold in Philadelphia. But we started with the bad news. The good news is that he threw for 346 yards and 2 touchdowns. So with Chip Kelly. So he actually is in the got calls section, and I stand by that. LaShawn McCoy, you guys, he's not the guy you drafted, but he's still, if you can believe it, the 16th highest scoring running back on the season. You're going to start him because that's who you have. And the Philadelphia Eagles defense is probably the best player on the team. And I know people don't want to talk about defenses, but they have forced 9 fumbles, which is tied for second in the league. They have allowed a lot of yards and points, but here's the deal. They have scored the most defensive touchdowns on the year, 9. The next team, 4.
There we go.
And they've also returned the most kickoff returns, 3. Next team, 1. That means they've scored 9 touchdowns in 10 games. The defense.
I couldn't believe it. Other people have them ranked lower, and I was like, no, you guys. It's the Eagles. It's fantasy here. Come on.
I know that
the
yards, but they do things with turnovers that no one else is doing. It's really amazing. And it's cool to watch, too. Yeah. Also, kickers, Cody Parkey, 4th highest scoring kicker in the league. He is completing 94.7% of his kicks. And Mark Sanchez is going to get them down the field, but I'm not always convinced he's going to get them in the end zone. And Zach Ertz, you know how I feel about him, even though he kind of had a bounce-back game. And by that I mean 4 catches for 55 yards. And, yeah.
He's one of the players that when they say his name, I like cringe.
Yeah, it's so hard, so hard. But they do give up the 14th most points to tight ends. So, and then Darren Sproles, I'm putting him on the bench. Guys, it's really difficult for me to tell you to start a guy who's only getting 4 touches a week. And if you still own Riley Cooper, you don't listen to our show.
Yep. St. Louis Rams 4-6. The San Diego Chargers 6-4. This one's gonna be a quick one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. I'm already bored because I'm talking about the Rams. I can't say that since they beat our team last week. Brutal. But play him if you got him. None. Mm-hmm. But my gut call is Trey Mason. So I'm sure you figured out by this point in the season it is extremely difficult to predict what Rams are going to do in the backfield. But it appears as if they're sticking with Trey Mason. So in the last 5 games, he's done pretty well. So other than week 8, where he only had 7 touches, he's been averaging 20 touches in the past few games. So what is even more encouraging is that he had 29 touches last week. So they're ramping up. He's getting more and more touches. which means that the Rams have confidence in him and that confidence is growing. He ran for over 113 yards, so that should also secure his starting spot for next week in case you were about the good old switcheroo that the Rams like to do. I think you're safe with Trey Mason this week, so give it a thought. Kenny Britt, also in my gut call section. Do I feel confident that the tide has turned for Kenny Britt? No.
No.
But sometimes you have to roll the dice, and there are worse options because, again, we have a quarterback change situation here where it makes everything different. And the other situation is there's absolutely no other receivers. He's like the only guy to possibly throw to. Mm-hmm. So that is also encouraging for you. If it was me, I would pick him up off the waivers and put him on my bench and watch and see how he does this next week before you put him in your lineup. But sometimes you're forced to play the hand, so we'll see. And my bench is Greg Zuerlein. I just want to give a shout-out to Mr. Greg Zuerlein, Greg the Leg, Legatron. Who's on my nickname here? A kicker. I just love it. But maybe I just want to say his nicknames. But in all seriousness, he was the highest scoring kicker last week with 20 points. But you aren't going to play him this week because the Chargers give up the second fewest points to kickers. So, nonetheless, great game, Leg.
Yeah. So the Chargers went from first to worst, and they have never bounced back from the Week 9 beatdown in Miami. So I still think Phillip Rivers has a chance to be okay, mostly because, the Rams give up the 8th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, but that's his upside right now. Gut calls, Ryan Matthews, still questionable due to that knee injury. He was limping on Sunday, but then he says he feels fine. I don't love him against the Rams. They give up the 10th fewest points to running backs, and they're getting cocky because they beat the Broncos. So, Malcolm Floyd and Keenan Allen, you know what? Why not? They give up the 4th most points to wide receivers. You know you're going to get about 5 to 15 points. You never know. Antonio Gates, he needs a touchdown. He was a touchdown machine. Recently, he's had 2 bad games in a row. I'm still playing him.
Yeah.
He's still the man.
Oldie and goodie.
Yeah. Chicago Chargers defense isn't very good, and a lot of people are going to tell you to stream them. But St. Louis is kind of bouncing back, like you said, with the new quarterback. I don't know if I'd stream them. I think that at a certain point, bad defenses are bad defenses.
It's true. I agree. Totally.
Yeah, and no one's really on the...
Sean Hill looked good last week.
Yeah, and no one's really on the bench, but no one's really a starter. It's just kind of sad.
Arizona Cardinals 9-1 at the Seattle Seahawks 6-4. The Cardinals are the perfect example of a winning team that doesn't help you win your fantasy team, right?
Yeah,
it's really unfortunate.
No.
Really? I would disagree with that as well.
I only have one league.
What?
I only have him in one league. That was probably out of turn.
That was really out of turn. But that's okay.
Wow. That was really out of turn. No,
I mean, I'm giving you a hard time. Ellington's great. I have him in my gut calls. Just because Seattle's defense is legit, you guys. They give up the fewest, 13th fewest to running backs, 4th fewest to quarterbacks, the fewest to wide receivers. I mean, it's going to be another Detroit-Arizona game, 14-6. This is going to be a defense on defense. It's going to be intense. That's why I have Andre Ellington, Michael Floyd, John Brown, and John Carlson, tight end, in gut calls. Carlson is not a great asset to anyone's fantasy team, but possibly this week. Seattle has no problem giving up touchdowns to tight ends, you guys. So he might get 15 yards and a touchdown. It's very possible. And that is good enough. For owners of Julius Thomas like me, I would take that the last 2 weeks. So, let's be realistic. That might be just what you need. But to me, the rest of these guys are just flex players. I mean, this is going to be a tough game against Seattle. It's not the greatest matchup. And again, this is not a fantasy galore team. On the bench, I have Larry Fitzgerald. You guys, Larry is dealing with a knee injury and is listed as questionable for Sunday's game. And it's a scary corners. I don't see him getting available, so that's that. And the kicker has only had 1 field goal in the last 3 games, so that's
he started so hot.
I know. I know. I can't pronounce his last name, but Catanzaro, that's how I'm going to say it, is really gone downhill real fast. Seahawks.
I completely agree with you. I feel the same way about the Seahawks because Arizona's no joke.
No
Second
joke.
fewest running backs, 13th. They do give them the 13th most points to wide receivers. So
But the good news is this, Seahawks don't really have any wide receivers. That's perfect.
that was my next point. Yeah. So they're going to use Lynch regardless of the strength of the running back defense. So, but Marshawn Lynch did not score against Kansas City last week. To be fair, no one has. They have 0 rushing touchdowns that they've allowed in the year. That's crazy.
That is nuts.
It makes no sense. But he did carry the ball 24 times for 124 yards. He is dealing with a back injury. He did not practice today, but he was dealing with it before. I think they're just resting him. And the other thing is he hates his coach and his team. So he's playing for contract. And
He hates people.
So, but I think he's playing for contract. You're still playing Marshawn Lynch. It's just that every time you check ESPN or some website, you just cringe when you see news from him. Russell Wilson, listen, he's rushed for 35-plus yards in 6 of his 10 games. 4 times he's rushed for over 70 yards. Twice, over 100. You guys, he's crazy. You can actually depend on these points. And since rushing yards are a point for every 10 yards as opposed to passing yards, a point for every 25 yards, you are getting those points. He's scored 4 rushing touchdowns on the season as well. You can count on it, and that's the only way that they're going to get anything done in Arizona. Stephen Hauschka, I just like to say his name, 90.5% completion rate. And, yeah, Doug Baldwin. I mean, only if you're in PPR, you guys. Once again, last week, 6 passes for 45 yards and a touchdown, but that was only his 2nd touchdown of the season. Defense, to Courtney's point, they're legit, but they don't force turnovers, and Arizona doesn't turn over the ball.
No.
So I wouldn't start them, but they are legit. Does that make sense? It should.
Yeah.
Once again, real football is not fantasy football. And bench warmers, yeah, we don't like anyone else on this team.
Nope. That's it, guys. Miami Dolphins, the Denver Broncos.
All right. Play him if you've got him. Lamar Miller. He didn't have the best week last week. He only scored 9 points. But what is good is it was all yardage. And again, that's my big thing is that when you see a guy getting a lot of yards, that you know he's incorporating the plays a lot. I feel good about it. And the Buffalo defense is good, and that's who's up last week. But the Denver Broncos, aren't too shabby either. So I would say kind of limit your expectations a little bit. But I do think he's going to find the end zone this week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I feel that way, but I do. I think he will. So I like Lamar Miller this week. My gut calls Mike Wallace. I can completely understand if you're getting a bit gun shy with him because his production has completely slowed down the last 4 games. It's been brutal. It's not good. But, keep in mind when he only scored you, 3 points, it was a very, very, very tough Buffalo defense. As Brandon had said in her notes, Buffalo is legit.
Legit.
And the Dolphins were playing very gingerly with that in mind. I'm going to say that. Now, my bigger concern with Wallace is that his calf is hurt and it did not practice on Wednesday. So keep your eye on him for the injury report before you make any sort of decision with him. My bench is the Miami Dolphins defense. Yes, the Broncos looked really, really bad last week. But don't think for 1 second that Peyton Manning is going to be pissed and is going to come out guns a-blazing. So this game is also in Denver, which won't help with the Dolphins and with the rage of Peyton Manning and altitude. So I'm not loving the Dolphins this week. On to the Broncos. You're obviously playing Peyton Manning. You're obviously playing Demaryius Thomas. You're playing C.J. Anderson. So there's definitely concern last week that Monty Ball was going to come in and definitely kind of vulture some of the touches, and then Ball went out with a groin injury. Hillman is still out. So C.J. Anderson is the man in town. He will get the rock. He's going to get it a lot. But he also was using the air quite a bit. So he's a nice little hybrid player. So overall, he's just a really good player, period, depending on whatever defense you're playing against. Now, Emmanuel Sanders did not practice on Wednesday as he has to go through the NFL's concussion protocol to be cleared to play this week. If he does get cleared, then obviously you are playing him. If not, Demaryius Thomas will benefit the most from his absence. Andre Caldwell will get some increased field time as well if Sanders sits out. So keep all those things in mind and definitely, again, be listening to reports as to what's going to be happening with Emmanuel Sanders. Julius Thomas in my gut call section. So the Broncos had a lot of injuries last game, which obviously did not help with the Rams. But Thomas was a big one, and it's his ankle, which, he was held out of practice Wednesday. So make sure that you keep a very close eye on your actives and inactives list on Sunday morning. I'm not feeling good about him playing this week. at
No,
all.
me neither.
But so even though he's not listed as out, he's not listed as doubtful. I
He's
still don't
actually
think-
listed as Fleener.
Yep. Yep.
Fleener, right?
I picked up Rivera. I'm playing Rivera instead of Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel good about it. What I will say, though, is that with Thomas out, if he is out, I think Jacob Tamme becomes the man for the tight ends. Peyton Manning, he's played with him before. He's kind of his target. You know, there's a comfort level there. I don't love that. And I checked, Fleener and ESPN is only owned in 57% of leagues. So he's out there for the taking for people that are Julius Thomas owners. So hop on that waiver right now. But I just want to point out that Tamme will be the main guy. Virgil Green may come back and play. He's questionable, but probably want to avoid the tight end situation there. Bench, Wes Welker. Wes continues to be ho-hum. So much so that Peyton Manning has had to actually answer questions about it. People like directly asking him. And his response has basically been, it has nothing to do with Wes Welker or his level of play. It purely is the fact that we just have so many options. Which, while true, is a very PC answer. But either way, you shouldn't care because he's not producing anything even remotely close to what you need on your team, so he has to be benched.
But would you
There's so
play
many
him?
options you lost to the St. Louis Rams.
Yeah, well, I mean, I
That was
don't know. I
before
kind of
that
feel
game.
like Wes Welker, if Sanders and Julius Thomas are out, I mean,
Yeah.
Well, the reason I don't like him is the Miami D is really good. So I think this could be a low-scoring
Yeah.
game. I think if you've got Sanders out, Thomas out, you got Wes in the slot, but I feel like they probably more than likely, honestly, do more of a dump off to C.J. Anderson than they will to Wes Welker.
sounds like a nightmare.
We all need to prepare ourselves to win our fantasy leagues with 70 points. Washington Redskins 3-7 at San Francisco 49ers 6-4.
Oh,
Redskins. All right, play if you got him. Alfred Morris. Morris is a sturdy little guy. You can always
Love
count
him.
on him. He keeps plugging away. With 96 rushing yards last week, he scored 12 points for you. You just don't want to get a Redskins game and start Morris. You'll feel much better with him because the Redskins are a nightmare, but he's the bright light on the team, so feel good about Morris. Now, Deshaun Jackson's in my gut call section. You're starting to get nervous that the return of RG3, would not be good for you as a Deshaun Jackson owner. I get it. I'm nervous for you too. I'm a Deshaun Jackson owner myself, so I'm nervous. But, Jackson caught a measly 4 catches on 6 targets for a very disappointing 35 yards. But the good news is that since week 5, he's had this 2 great game, 1 terrible game pattern. So hopefully, he'll have 2 good games on the horizon for you. But the Niners secondary isn't anything super special, so that shouldn't really factor in your decision as whether you're going to play him or not. I think what should factor in your decision is, what kind you hear coming out from Washington in terms of the chemistry. Because we had a little bit of off-field issues.
I've always disliked
week.
RG3. I can't stand him. I was on the Kirk Cousins bandwagon forever because I hate RG3 so much. And that press conference made me want to punch the TV. It was so crazy. I can't believe, as a quarterback, that you're going to blame every single person on the team except yourself. It's amazing to me. It's just crazy. Bananas.
Well, and that's my
Thank
thing.
you, Jay Gruden.
Yeah, I mean, I've got, I'm just saying, there's better options moments than RG3 because he only threw for 207 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Ouch. But even more of a concern for me, like you're saying, Courtney, is this stirring up of the locker room again. This is the drama we saw last year, that if you watched the Redskins at all last year, this was like implosion central, right?
Yes.
And then, you're throwing your teammates under the bus in conferences, so much so that your coach goes on to basically tear you apart.
Just because you're having sleepovers at the owner's house and using his car service does not give you the right to attack your team. Okay? Stop it.
It's
That's
crazy.
so interesting. I didn't take it as that way. I actually thought to myself, man, there must be something going on in the actual locker room itself, physically, because I thought it was kind of like, I thought the snippet was bad, but if you listened to it before, he's like, no, I'm bad. I need to really play better, et cetera, et cetera. But obviously the chemistry is weird because the fact that Gruden would come out, I was shocked Gruden came out like that.
Well, that was my thing.
I was like, obviously there's a real problem, and I didn't.
Gruden did. Gruden. RG3 had basically said, like, I feel bad that it was interpreted that way. I certainly never meant it like that, yada, yada. but he's got a past, he's got a history of this, right? So even if
Yeah.
he didn't mean it that way, this is how it's coming off to his teammates. This is how it's coming off to his coach. And it is a problem.
His second coach. This is the second coach.
Second
There's
one.
a problem with him for the same reason.
So
Remember
we got
last year, he was like, they don't even pick me up after I've been sacked. Well, no, because they don't like you. That's you. It's you, my friend. You need to look in the mirror.
So moral of the
Sorry.
story is we've got a chemistry issue in Washington, D.C., and it might be a problem. So again, for me, my biggest thing is just it caused problems last year, so I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous for him.
Great. Well, Courtney just pulled a sorry, not sorry.
Sorry,
like
not sorry.
San Francisco 49ers. It's on my list of teams that I just have a tough time telling you to play anyone. But then they keep having these matchups, and every week I tell you, okay, Washington gives up the absolute most points to quarterbacks. They're tied for the 7th fewest to running backs, but then the 12th most points to wide receivers, 13th most points to tight ends. And then I say to you, okay, they haven't been playing well, but they might go off because of this great matchup. And I'm going to have to keep telling you this, and I have no interest in doing that. Colin Kaepernick. Here his last 3 scores out loud. 10.88, 12.8, 14.12. His scores since his bye in week 8. But he keeps getting these matchups. I can't talk about it anymore. It's just too much. Michael Crabtree. Do not get fooled by his one big play. 3 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown. He
Thanks
caught
for saying to play one
3
game.
of his 8 targets. And he caught 3 of his 8 targets last week, or the week before, for 62 yards. No touchdown. That's a little more usual. And Quan Bolden, stud muffin if you're in a PPR league, because he always has 5 catches at least. Okay, he's had 5 catches or more in every game except for 2. So right away, if you're in PPR, that's 5 points right off the bat. But it was only for 53 yards. So if you're not in PPR, you're like, eh. So Frank Gore, I was hoping he'd blow up last week. He didn't. But stop asking me questions about Carlos Hyde. You guys, since week 7, he's only carried the ball 9 or less times in every game. He's only scored 1 touchdown. Why do you keep asking me if you should start Carlos Hyde? The answer is no. And then bench warmers, Nando. I'm so sorry, buddy. I know that you were sticking with Vernon Davis because he might go off. I'm telling you, I'm sticking by my 1 catch for 8 yards. Actually, it was 7. Remember I said 1 catch for 8 yards?
Yeah.
It was 7. And then the week before that, 1 catch for 8 yards. The week before that, 2 catches for 19 yards. This is not going away. Boom.
Boom. Dallas Cowboys 7-3 in New York. Giants 3-7. We got a Sunday night football game matchup here, people.
Yes.
Play him if you got him. Tony Romo, DeMarco Murray, Dez Bryant, Jason Witten, and Dan Bailey. Hey, Tony Romo had over 20 fantasy points in Week 7 against the Giants, so no worries there, you guys. He missed a game in Week 9, but came back and dominated Jacksonville with a solid 20-plus points. I'm into it. I'm into him. You're starting him. Dez, we didn't get to talk about him last week because they were on bye, but I just want to celebrate Dez for having a huge game.
Huge.
158 yards and 2 touchdowns. Thank you. That's what I've wanted all year long. I appreciate you giving it to me. I don't think he's going to do it again this week, but it's still going to be a good solid 15 points per use. I'm into it. Gut calls Terrence Williams. You guys, I am not ruling him out this week. I know he's disappointed us. I get it. The Giants are banged up on defense. They have been good against wide receivers, but this should only help Williams because they're going to be taking care of Bryant. Don't lose faith. I'm going to still play him in your flex position. Benchwarmers, nobody, you guys. It's the Giants. Let's get into the Giants. Remember Eli when he threw 5 interceptions?
Yeah, they were so close to winning that game, too.
Man, it's so awesome.
I'm so glad I started San Francisco's defense.
Yeah. Winnie. This is my team. I do not like covering. Rashad Jennings, I told you to temper your expectations for Jennings coming off from an injury and not performing very well before he got hurt. This week he is off the injury report completely. This should be a good play this week, you guys. Dallas is just okay against running backs. I say play him if you got him. Odell Beckham Jr., he is a stud. He is just
A man.
the man.
Mike Evans.
His haircut is fabulous. He is
Yeah, great
fabulous.
haircut.
His quarterback's not fabulous, but hey, he can make it happen.
Yeah, when you do those weird one-handed grabs like that, doesn't matter
Yeah.
if the quarterback's good.
That's right. We're starting him, you guys. We're starting him. You know what? I have Larry Donnell as a start as well. He had 11 points last week. He's really a gut call every week because he's so boomer bust, but it's tight ends, you guys. We're desperate here. Gut calls, Eli Manning and Ruben Randall. I dislike both of these players, but they love each other. It's sick. I really dislike it. Oh, it's like that uncomfortable couple in the room that you're just like, man, I'm not for divorce, but it looks really good with the two of you. Manning's targets Randall 15 times last week. It's crazy. Oh, you really can't bench a guy with that many targets. You just can't
I think I
do it.
can.
But he doesn't catch any of the targets.
Oh, man, he catches half of them. That's 6 points if you're in PPR, you know. I mean, whatever. I hate him, but God, gut call. Manning had 23 fantasy points last time they played the Cowboys, so facts are facts, you guys. Eli might be coming off a game with 5 interceptions, but he had 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions against them in Week 7, so might not be a bad play this week.
I love that you have to laugh while you're saying it.
I dislike these guys. Like, I really dislike Ruben Randall. I owned him in a couple of my leagues, so therefore my hate for him is extreme. But benchwarmers, Andre Williams, drop him, please. It's done. It's over. Sorry. Monday Night Football. Baltimore Ravens 6-4. New Orleans Saints 4-6. Hey yo, Justin Forsett, play him if you got him. Coming off a bye, he's gonna be Speedy McSpeedies. I love him. Torrey Smith, he's getting better and better every week. You guys, you're gonna have to start him. I know he was a bench for the first half of the season, but now he's a play him if you got him. And you know what? I'm going on a limb and I'm saying Steve Smith Sr. is going to have a bounce-back week this week. Coming off a bye against the Saints, who are not so good against wide receivers. The corner, they don't have enough people to cover both of them. He's going to do it, you guys. Steve Smith is going to come back. This is his week. My bold prediction, Steve Smith.
Steve Smith.
Triple S sauce, this is your moment. If it's not, well, hasta la vista, baby. Gut calls, Joe Flacco and the Baltimore's defense. You know, Flacco's always a gut call. You know, I mean, he's not my favorite. He's not my least favorite. But if I'm going to put Eli Manning in gut calls, you guys, you got to put Joe Flacco in gut calls too. It's just the rule. Those two go hand in hand. So I'm putting them both in gut calls. It's the Saints. The defense is just meh. So that's where I'm at.
Flacco and Eli Manning would be friends.
I feel like they would be too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. But Flacco would be the cool guy in the room.
That's debatable.
Are there any bench warmers?
Nah,
because the Saints are not.
You know what?
popular.
Owen Daniels, this is not my favorite week for Owen Daniels because the Saints actually are good against tight ends.
That's true.
If you have to play him, totally understand it. It's a tight end position, but he's not my favorite.
Well, I was surprised to find out that Baltimore gives up the absolute least points to running backs.
Interesting.
Fascinating. I had no idea. They do give up the 5th most points to wide receivers, but Brandon Cooks, IR, broken thumb, very sad. Therefore, there's not a whole lot to say. Why? Because you're starting Drew Brees, and you're starting Jimmy Graham, and you're disappointed a little bit in both of them, even though they're both top 10 guys. You're still kind of like, I thought you'd be the best, and you were just kind of good. But you know what? Stop complaining. They're better than a lot of people. And Ingram, you're going to start, even though it's a bad matchup, because he's been a stud, and it's going to be hard to bench him. And, Marcus Colston supposedly and Kenny Stills are going to pick up the slack here. I don't know, you guys. Marcus Coulson's had a terrible year, especially for drops. And Kenny Stills is so inconsistent. I just can't tell you to start him. And that's it. I mean, that's the problem, is that it's almost impossible to give you accurate analysis on the New Orleans Saints. Even though they are at home, they do play better at home.
Right.
But the loss of Brandon Cooks is very bizarre. And I'm also going to say, listen, I think I'm dropping Drew Brees to tier 2 next year in my rankings. So you heard it here first.
Bam.
Top of tier 2.
That's week 12, you guys. It's going to be a low-scoring week, so enjoy yourself. Don't stress out. Drink a lot of margaritas. Hop over to herfantasyfootball.com and on Twitter at herfantasyfb for last-minute questions. Until next time, guys, no more faking it.